Well, now what do I do? Very good. Hello, the internet! I am back again, and this time with a review for Sons of the Forest. I will get into my rationale and solutions for my opinions soon, but my too long didn't read is this. Hopefully the story will be fleshed out, the combat is unnecessary and lacking, the scenery is spectacular, Kelvin is a godsend, the island is massive, which is good and bad, the weapon switching is clunky, the sled is amazing, the water's too murky to be enjoyable, building a base is pointless, and playing solo is horrible. So, if you love to build in video games, watch other people build and make your own decision. If you're playing multiplayer, this will be great with friends to goof around with and have fun. If you're playing solo, you might want to pass, especially if you have an older computer. If you think I'm wrong, let me explain. But before I do, I would like to address a few potential counters to my criticism that I believe are unfair. First,
It's more realistic this way.
realism in video games don't exist. Video games are built on challenges and rewards that are fair and fun for the player with game logic disguised as realism. If you at any moment think realism is an answer to my criticism, then you need to think a lot harder about what is realism in video games. For example, if you think you can lift up 2 logs on your shoulder, walk up the side of a log cabin, split the log in half, and magically glue itself to the top of a structure, then you might need to go see a doctor. Saying it makes the video game more realistic is a cop-out to addressing a potential issue.
But they're an indie developer.
I wouldn't call Indie Games an indie developer anymore. The Forest sold 5.3 million copies, a low to high estimate of $50 to $150 million in revenue, and they should have enough resources to produce a quality game.
But it's in early access.
I know this is an early access, and the developer hopes to be done in 6 to 8 months, but I personally feel like some of these issues should have already been addressed with how polished the game looks. I do hope that my criticism helps change the game for good, or I'm wrong, and the game was just not meant for me. A little about myself. I play a lot of survival-like games, most recently Valheim, Raft, and Grounded, and I really enjoy the genre. Every one of them offers different challenges, quests, crafting, and playstyles. Also, I often play solo. When I do play solo, I'm very task-oriented and will bounce between base building, crafting, gathering, hunting enemies, and completing story items. Unfortunately, I feel the only necessary task to do in Sons of the Forest is fetch quests to progress your game. Thus, I believe the solo player experience needs a lot of improvement, starting with combat. It's not enjoyable. Arguably, I would need to practice more to get better at fighting, but when you're solo and you die twice in a row, your game is over. You have to load a previous save, which isn't fun for the player, especially if you lose several hours of gameplay. My solution was to place save points all over the map just to make sure I didn't get reset, which in my opinion isn't a good gaming experience. And I'm not whining about dying in the game, I actually like punishment for death in games. They teach the player that there are consequences for their actions and they need to be more careful or get better. Having to reload a save doesn't teach me anything other than to save more often. As a side note, in multiplayer, there aren't any consequences to dying. You will constantly go to the closest village, free yourself, and run back as many times as you want. Also, there is no incentive for the player to get better. In fact, unless I needed to fight, on my solo journey, I just ran past every enemy and grabbed the things I needed to get, because I didn't want to lose my progress. No enemies drop items I need, so why fight them? I'll just end up losing resources and gain close to nothing. Creepy armor and skin wallets don't feel like an adequate trade. One possible solution would be that certain enemies need to be killed for certain necessary resources. In regards to an adequate punishment for death, while in solo, you could break yourself free and grab your backpack with most of your items, but an enemy in the camp is holding onto one of your key items, like a gun or an axe, that you want to get back, and you will need to kill them to retrieve it. For multiplayers, an option could be that you can't free yourself and your friends have to save you. Although I'm sure there will be a lot of complaints about your friends never saving you, so maybe a toggle for that option, although I think it'd be kind of hilarious. Like, I built a base, but there wasn't a reason for it, honestly. Next, base building. It's obsolete. Other than for your own enjoyment, there is no point to building a base. You have plenty of inventory space for all of the things you collect, and you never need to build a base to hold your items or to craft a workshop to create additional items. After I built my base and started doing story items, I never saw it again. Maybe this will change in the future, but there needs to be a purpose for a base. For example, you need to survive X number of days for some story purpose and have to defend against attack. My next criticism is the map is too large. is a massive, beautiful map, but having to travel across it becomes very tedious very quick. I haven't timed myself, but apparently it takes around an hour to run around the whole map, so basically it feels like you're playing Death Stranding. I would like to see a way to quick travel that makes sense, like a ski lift you can fix and with your zipline gun can travel to the top of a mountain and jump off with a sled, or a series of flooded caves that can be unlocked that you can go into that will spit you out to the other side of the map. Something like that, unlocked later on in the game, will help the player experience the beauty of the island, but will eventually unlock a faster way to travel so as not to make the map tedious. Next, Kelvin. He's amazing, 10 out of 10, would be in a helicopter crash again with him. Mwah. Oh. Something. Okay, now that was good. Now we have the inventory system. It's too clunky. I love how much you can hold. I'm what you would call a loot goblin who has too good to use syndrome, and I would love collecting. But trying to switch to a different weapon during combat is impossible. Even the quick select backpack freezes the player in place while you're selecting a different weapon. I've heard people calling it more realistic, but I considered it everything but. I've done construction in my past, and I know where my hammer, nail, square, tape measure, etc. are on my tool belt, and I don't have to pull the whole thing off and hold it in front of me to get something from it. Solution? Just give me 4 slots to swap between 4 items that I choose in advance from my backpack. Or more, whatever. A few other drive-by thoughts. Why is the water so murky? It kind of ruins going underwater. Also, I'm hoping in the development process, the game will be better optimized so I can run more quality and get at least 60 frames a second. I have a 2060 Super and I was hoping it would be good enough. I wish the winters were harsher. I'm assuming the story isn't done and will be fleshed out over the next 6 to 8 months, so I feel like criticism here would be misplaced. With all that being said, I think the Sons of the Forest can be amazing, but without the solo player experience changing, I probably won't play it again, nor recommend it for other solo players. Even the multiplayers will probably find the same issue with useless bases and needlessly lengthy journeys. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed my thoughts on the Sons of the Forest. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and feel free to tell me if you think I'm wrong in the comments. Just make sure it's substantial, not, "You're stupid and don't get it."